First contact with the remnants. The crystalline spires of the Galactic Archaeological Council gleamed in the twin suns of Centaur Prime as Dr. Sarah Chen adjusted her collar for the fifth time. After 15 years of being the only human on the Council's elite exploration team, she still felt out of place among the towering Arcturians and the ethereal Xyloxi. The morning's discovery meeting would be different, though. She had found something that would change everything. Esteemed colleagues, High Archaeologist Valthor's resonant voice filled the chamber. Dr. Chen claims to have found evidence of advanced civilization in the Osiris Void, a region, I might add, that has been thoroughly surveyed by our best teams for centuries. His upper eyes blinked in amusement while his lower ones remained fixed on Sarah. Sarah stepped forward, her boots clicking against the polished floor. The holoprojector hummed to life, filling the chamber with images of a massive underground complex. These structures were discovered beneath the surface of Osiris Void. The architecture is unlike anything in our records, but the technology. She paused, bringing up detailed scans. The technology is far beyond our current capabilities. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Archaeologist Zira, her crystalline form catching the light, spoke first. Impossible. The dating puts these ruins at over 50,000 years old. No civilization in the known galaxy had achieved such advancement at that time. Precisely, Sarah replied, allowing herself a small smile. Because this wasn't built by any known civilization. She zoomed in on a particular section of the ruins, highlighting a series of markings. These symbols were found throughout the complex. They're not just decorative. They're a language, one that took me months to partially decode. The chamber fell silent as she brought up her translation matrix. Valthor's four eyes widened as the ancient symbols transformed into modern galactic standard. This can't be correct, he whispered. But it is, Sarah continued. These ruins weren't built by the Arcturians, or the Xyloxi, or any other known species. They were built by humans. The chamber erupted in laughter. Even Valthor couldn't contain his amusement. Dr. Chen, while we appreciate your creativity, humans are newcomers to the galactic community. Your species barely achieved faster than light travel 3 centuries ago. Sarah remained calm, waiting for the laughter to subside. That's what we thought too. But these ruins tell a different story. They suggest that humanity didn't evolve on Earth at all. We fled there. She brought up new images, massive hangar bays, advanced weapon systems, and most importantly, a massive database that remained stubbornly locked. The complex's security systems are still active after 50,000 years, and they respond to only one thing: human DNA. The laughter died away as she played the recording from her initial exploration. The ancient facility's AI speaking in perfect, if archaic, human language. The security scans that activated only for her. The doors that opened to her touch while remaining sealed to her alien colleagues. There's more, Sarah said, her voice growing urgent. The facility isn't just a ruin. It's a warning system. Something caused humanity to abandon this level of advancement, to retreat to Earth and start over. Something that the system predicts is about to return. Valthor's amusement had completely vanished. What kind of threat could be so severe that it would cause an entire civilization to deliberately regress? Sarah brought up the final image. A star map showing a massive void in space, slowly filling with something that defied conventional sensors. That's what we need to find out. Because according to these readings, whatever it is, it's waking up. The chamber erupted in urgent discussions. Sarah stood quietly, watching the stark reality sink in. Humanity wasn't just another young species finding its way among the stars. They were the survivors of something so catastrophic, they chose to forget their own history rather than face it again. And now, as the ancient warning systems began to pulse with increasing urgency, it seemed that choice was about to be taken away from them. The past was returning, whether they were ready or not. As Sarah looked around the chamber at her alien colleagues, she realized they would need to overcome their prejudices quickly. Because the ruins weren't just a testament to humanity's forgotten past, they were a key to surviving whatever was coming. And the only ones who could unlock that key were the very humans the galactic community had dismissed for so long. The memory core. Initiating genetic verification sequence. The ancient AI's voice echoed through the massive chamber as Sarah pressed her palm against the crystalline interface. Behind her, Val Thor and 3 other council members watched with poorly concealed skepticism. The chamber they stood in dwarfed anything in modern architecture, its ceiling lost in shadows despite the facility's restored lighting. "You're certain this is wise?" Val Thor asked, his 4 eyes tracking the ripples of energy spreading from Sarah's hand. "These systems have been dormant for 50,000 years. The risks are necessary," Sarah finished. "The void is expanding. Whatever's coming, we need to know what we're facing." She winced as the interface drew a small blood sample. Besides, the council voted 7-6, if I remember correctly. Genetic sequence confirmed. "Welcome, Inheritor Chen." The crystal beneath her palm pulsed with deep blue light. "Warning. Temporal displacement detected. Genetic drift indicates approximately 50,000 years have elapsed since last access, initiating historical briefing protocol." The chamber transformed around them. Holographic images filled the space, so detailed that Sarah felt as if she could reach out and touch them. They showed Earth, but not the Earth she knew. Massive cities stretched across continents, their spires reaching into space itself. Orbital rings circled the planet, hosting billions of inhabitants. "Behold the third age of human civilization," the AI announced. "At our height, humanity had colonized 12 galaxies. We had mastered dimensional engineering, achieved biological immortality, and made peace with 97% of all encountered sentient species." Val Thor stepped forward, his professional skepticism warring with awe. "Impossible. The power requirements alone were solved through zero-point energy extraction." The AI interrupted. "A technology your civilization appears to have not yet discovered." The holograms shifted, showing vast fleets of ships unlike anything in modern records. "We were not perfect, but we were peaceful, until they came." The images changed again. Sarah's breath caught as she saw vast sections of space simply disappear. Not destroyed, not damaged, but erased as if they had never existed. "The Void Makers," the AI continued. "We never learned their true name. They emerged from what we thought was empty space, consuming everything in their path. Reality itself seemed to bend around them." "The spatial anomalies we've detected," Sarah whispered. "They're coming back." "Correct." New images appeared, showing desperate battles against enemies that could barely be perceived. "We fought for 300 years. Billions died. Entire galaxies were lost. When we realized we couldn't win through conventional means, we enacted the Exodus Protocol." The holograms showed a massive evacuation, billions of humans being relocated to primitive worlds, their memories altered, their technology destroyed. Earth was chosen as the sanctuary world. Its isolation and primitive state made it perfect for the grand deception. We erased our own history, our own achievements, allowing ourselves to evolve again from simplicity. "But why?" Val Thor demanded. "Why abandon such power?" "Because the Void Makers were attracted to advanced civilizations," the AI explained. "They fed on complexity itself. By reducing ourselves to primitive status, we became invisible to them. But we did not leave ourselves defenseless." The chamber's walls seemed to peel away, revealing vast machinery extending for kilometers in every direction. "This facility is one of 12,000 scattered throughout the galaxy. Each contains weapon systems, shields, and technology that the Void Makers cannot detect because they operate on principles the enemy cannot perceive." Sarah felt a chill as she realized the implications. "You weren't just hiding technology for us to find. You were hiding an entire defense network." "Correct again, Inheritor Chen. The network can only be activated by pure human DNA. a failsafe to ensure our descendants would be ready when they discovered it. The time lock was set for approximately 50,000 years, allowing humanity to rebuild naturally while the Voidmakers retreated to their dimension. Valthor's skepticism had completely vanished. The void we detected, they're returning ahead of schedule. By approximately 3,000 years, the AI confirmed. This is troubling. It suggests they have evolved, become more aggressive. The defense network is ready, but humanity's development is incomplete. You have not yet relearned all that was lost. Sarah straightened her spine, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her. Then we'll have to learn quickly. Show us everything. And I mean everything. The AI paused, its crystals pulsing with new intensity. Warning. Complete historical database contains information that may be psychologically traumatic. The burden of lost knowledge is nothing compared to the burden of facing the Voidmakers unprepared. Sarah interrupted. Show us who we were, so we can remember who we're meant to be. The chamber hummed with power as new holograms began to form. Valthor stepped closer to Sarah, his usual condescension replaced with something like respect. Your people, he said quietly, are far more than we imagined. Sarah watched as humanity's true history began to unfold before them. No, she replied. We're exactly who we've always been. We just forgot for a while. She touched the crystal interface again, feeling the ancient power surge through her. But now it's time to remember. The coming storm. The Galactic Council's emergency session descended into chaos as Sarah projected the void readings above the assembly. Representatives from 200 species argued in dozens of languages, while the automated translators struggled to keep up. This is preposterous. Ambassador Corell of the Tachyon Confederation slammed all 6 of his appendages on the podium. You expect us to believe that humans, barely civilized humans, once ruled 12 galaxies, and now you demand we turn over military control to them. Sarah kept her voice steady, though her patience was wearing thin. The void has expanded another 12 light-years since yesterday. At this rate, it will reach populated systems within 3 months. The defense network is a myth, Corell interrupted. Or worse, a human fabrication to seize power. We've analyzed your so-called ancient technology. It defies known physics. That's exactly the point. Valthor spoke up, surprising Sarah. The High Archaeologist's support had been unexpected but welcome. It defies our physics because it operates on principles specifically designed to counter the Voidmakers. Principles we cannot understand because our science developed along different lines. The chamber's holographic displays shifted, showing real-time footage of the void's expansion. Dark tendrils of non-space reached across the stars like hungry fingers. Sarah activated another recording from the memory core. The assembly fell silent as they watched a Voidmaker manifest in ancient footage. Reality twisted around it, stars and planets simply ceasing to exist in its presence. Then a beam of impossible light, somehow both brilliant and dark simultaneously, struck it from a human defense installation. The Voidmaker recoiled, its non-substance dispersing like smoke in a storm. The defense network uses what our ancestors called inverse reality manipulation. Sarah explained. It doesn't just fight the Voidmakers. It speaks their language, turns their own nature against them. And it can only be activated by human DNA because our ancestors encoded the ability to perceive and control these forces into our very genes. Ambassador Xin of the Silicon Collective raised her crystalline form. If what you say is true, why have humans shown no signs of these capabilities? Your species struggles with basic faster-than-light travel. Because we chose to forget. Sarah's voice softened. Our ancestors understood that knowledge itself was dangerous. The Voidmakers are drawn to advanced civilizations like moths to flame. So humanity enacted the greatest sacrifice in history. We erased our own achievements, wiped our memories, and began again from scratch. New images appeared. The massive evacuation, the careful selection of Earth, the deliberate technological regression. We hid our true nature not just from the Voidmakers, but from ourselves. And now we need to remember fast. The chamber erupted in fresh arguments until a new alarm cut through the chaos. Sarah's wrist computer projected urgent data from the ancient facility. "The void's expansion has accelerated," she announced, her heart racing. "New estimate for contact with populated systems. 3 weeks." Silence fell like a hammer. Ambassador Kirill's color paled to a sickly green. "That's impossible. Your previous calculations were based on their previous behavior," Sarah finished. "They're adapting, learning, moving faster than before. We don't have time for debates or committees." She straightened, facing the assembly. "I'm not asking for military control. I'm telling you that in 3 weeks, reality itself will begin unraveling at the edges of known space. The only defense against that is a network of technology specifically designed to fight it. And that network will only respond to human operators." Valthor stepped forward. "The Council has verified Dr. Chen's claims. The technology is real. Its age is real. And the threat is very, very real. The question isn't whether humans should be trusted with this power. The question is whether we can afford not to trust them." The assembly murmured as new data poured in. Spatial distortions were increasing exponentially. Quantum fluctuations at the void's edge matched exactly with the ancient records of the first Voidmaker invasion. Ambassador Xin's crystalline form vibrated with decision. The Silicon Collective votes to support immediate activation of the Human Defense Network. One by one, other representatives stood. Even Kirill, after a long moment, raised his appendages in agreement. "The Tachyon Confederation concurs. But we demand oversight." "There isn't time." Sarah cut him off, already heading for the exit. "The network is registering critical warnings. We need to begin activation now." She paused at the door, looking back at the assembly. "You've never trusted humans before, and I understand why. We're young, impulsive, sometimes reckless. But right now, those qualities might be exactly what saves us all." As she rushed toward the ancient facility, Sarah could feel the weight of history pressing down on her. Humanity had hidden its true nature for 50,000 years, playing the role of newcomers to the galactic stage. Now the masquerade was ending, ready or not. The real question wasn't whether humanity could remember its former greatness in time. The question was whether that greatness would be enough to face what was coming. Legacy of the ancestors. The ancient facility thrummed with awakening power as Sarah raced through its corridors, followed by a hastily assembled team of human operators. Each had been chosen for their unique genetic markers. Descendants, though they hadn't known it, of the original facility commanders. "Defensive Grid Node 7, coming online," announced Dr. Marcus Wong, his hands dancing over crystalline controls that responded eagerly to his touch. Similar reports echoed from across the galaxy as other facilities awakened to human contact. "Time to void contact," Sarah called out, her own console pulsing with urgent data. 17 days, 4 hours, replied Dr. Elena Rodriguez from the quantum mapping station. But the spatial distortions are becoming more erratic. These readings, they're like nothing in the historical records. Sarah felt a chill. If the Voidmakers had evolved beyond what their ancestors had faced, even the defense network might not be enough. The facility's AI flickered to life beside her, its holographic form showing concern. "Inheritor Chen, we have detected anomalous patterns in the Void's approach. The enemy appears to have developed new strategies during their dormancy." Valthor, who had insisted on staying despite the facility's obvious preference for human operators, stepped forward. "Can the defense network adapt?" "Unknown," the AI had admitted. "The network was designed with significant adaptive capabilities, but we never anticipated a 50,000-year gap in operations." Sarah studied the real-time data flooding her screens. The Void's expansion had developed a pattern. It wasn't just growing, it was reaching, probing. "They remember," she whispered. "They remember what hurt them last time." A new alarm blared through the facility. Elena's voice rose in panic. "Spatial breach detected." "They're not waiting. They're pushing through now. The main display erupted with images of impossibility. Reality itself tore open at the edge of inhabited space, and through that tear came something that hurt to look at. The Void Makers had returned, and they had indeed evolved. Full activation. Sarah commanded. All facilities. Execute Protocol Omega. Around the galaxy, 12,000 hidden installations surged to life. Energy that denied normal physics rippled through space. The defense network, dormant for 50 millennia, awakened to its purpose. But the Void Makers were ready. As the first inverse reality beams struck them, they shifted, changed, became something even stranger. Where before they had simply erased existence, now they corrupted it, twisted it into shapes that shouldn't be possible. They've adapted to the primary defense protocols. The AI announced, its voice urgent. Conventional responses are proving ineffective. Sarah watched in horror as the first line of automated defenses failed. The Void Makers pressed forward, reality breaking around them like glass. Then she noticed something in the data stream, a pattern in the chaos. They've evolved, she said slowly, but so have we. She turned to the assembled team. Our ancestors built this technology, but they designed it to grow, to change. And for 50,000 years, it's been sitting here, thinking, planning, adapting just like they did. She pressed her hand to the main console. AI. Initiate genetic interface, full spectrum. Warning. The AI responded. Full genetic interface has never been tested with evolved human DNA. The psychological stress could be. We don't have time for warnings. Sarah's voice cracked with authority. Our ancestors designed this technology to be part of us. It's time to remember not just what we knew, but what we were. The facility hummed as new systems activated. Crystal interfaces extended from the walls, reaching for each human operator. Sarah felt the first connection spark through her mind and gasped at the flood of information. 50,000 years of dormant knowledge poured through her consciousness. She saw the wars, the victories, the final desperate plan to hide humanity's true nature. But more than that, she felt the technology responding to her on a level deeper than thought. Around her, the other operators were experiencing the same awakening. Humanity had never really forgotten. The knowledge had just been sleeping, encoded in their very DNA, waiting for the moment of need. Multiple breaches. Elena called out, but her voice was different now, filled with new understanding. They're trying to flank the network. Let them try, Sarah responded, feeling the full power of the facility flowing through her. Humanity didn't just build this network. We are the network. And it's time to remind the Void Makers why they feared us enough to make us hide. The defenses changed, shifted, evolved with their human operators. Where before they had fought with programmed responses, now they fought with human intuition backed by ancient power. The Void Makers surged forward, but for the first time, they met resistance they couldn't simply erase. Valthor watched in awe as the humans worked, their movements synchronized with technology that seemed more alive with each passing moment. By all the stars, he whispered, your people really did save us all once before. Sarah didn't respond. Her mind merged with systems that had waited 50,000 years for this moment. The real battle was just beginning, but humanity was finally awake. And this time, they wouldn't have to hide again. Guardians of the Galaxy. The battle raged across dimensions, as reality itself became a battlefield. Sarah, her consciousness merged with the ancient defense network, could perceive the true nature of the conflict. The Void Makers weren't just erasing space, they were consuming possibility itself, feeding on the infinite potential of existence. Northwestern Quadrant stabilized. Marcus reported, his voice echoing both physically and through the network link. But they're learning, adapting to each countermeasure almost as fast as we deploy it. Sarah watched through 1,000 sensor arrays as the Void Makers pressed against the defense grid. Their non-substance writhed against barriers of inverse reality, seeking weaknesses. But humanity was adapting too, faster than even their ancestors could have imagined. They don't understand, Elena said suddenly, her eyes glowing with the network's power. Our ancestors built this technology, but they never got to see its final form. It's been evolving for 50,000 years, waiting for us to catch up to it. Sarah felt the truth of it in every cell. The defense network wasn't just a weapon. It was humanity's legacy, a gift from their past selves that had grown into something more. And now, connected to human consciousness again, it was becoming something entirely new. All facilities, Sarah commanded, her voice carrying through the network, initiate convergence protocol. The AI's holographic form flickered with concern. Inheritor Chen, convergence was theoretical even in the Third Age. The power requirements alone will be met, Sarah finished, because we're not just fighting with technology anymore. We're fighting with 50,000 years of human evolution, merged with 50,000 years of technological evolution. We're what our ancestors were trying to create all along. Around the galaxy, 12,000 facilities pulsed with new purpose. The human operators, their minds linked through technology that defied conventional physics, began to move as one. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then everything changed. The defense network didn't just fire weapons. It rewrote the laws of physics in localized stasis. The void makers, creatures of unreality, found themselves trapped in bubbles of pure, defined existence. Their ability to consume possibility meant nothing when possibility itself was anchored by human will. They're retreating, Elena called out. But Sarah saw more than retreat. She saw recognition. The void makers had evolved over 50,000 years, becoming more powerful, more cunning. But they hadn't expected humanity to evolve too. They hadn't expected their old enemy to become something new. Through the network, Sarah addressed the alien entities directly, not in words, but in concepts that transcended language. We remember you. We remember why we hid, but we're not hiding anymore. The response came not in thoughts, but in ripples of unreality, a communication from beings that existed outside normal space. They remembered too. Remembered the species that had fought them to a standstill, that had chosen to forget its own greatness rather than continue an endless war. But that species was gone. In its place was something else, humanity reborn, carrying both the wisdom of deliberate regression and the strength of natural evolution. The void makers recoiled not from the weapons arrayed against them, but from the sheer possibility that humanity now represented. They're pulling back, Marcus reported, wonder in his voice. All across the frontier, they're withdrawing. Valthor, who had watched the entire battle in stunned silence, finally spoke. They fear you. Not your weapons, not your technology. They fear what you've become. Sarah nodded, feeling the truth of it through the network. We're not what we were in the Third Age. We're not what we were on Earth either. We're something new, something that can bridge the gap between normal space and the void. Something they never expected to encounter. The last of the spatial breaches sealed as the void makers retreated. But they weren't fleeing in panic. They were withdrawing with purpose. Sarah felt their final communication ripple through the network. An acknowledgement, an acceptance, and something that might have been respect. They're not coming back, she announced, both to the facility and to the waiting galaxy. Not to fight, at least. They recognize us as equals now, maybe even as potential allies. She smiled. After all, who better to help them understand normal space than the species that deliberately forgot its own nature and then rebuilt itself from scratch? The facility hummed as the emergency protocols powered down, but the connection remained. Humanity had remembered not just its past, but its purpose. They had hidden themselves away not in fear, but in preparation for this moment. As the all-clear signals spread across the galaxy, Sarah felt the weight of 50,000 years lift from humanity's shoulders. They had been playing a role for so long. The young species, the newcomers, the students of galactic civilization. Now they could finally be themselves again. Valthor approached her as the other operators began disconnecting from the network. The Council will have questions. The entire galaxy will have questions. How do we proceed from here? Sarah looked at the star map, now free of spatial distortions. We proceed as we always have, one step at a time. But this time, we don't have to pretend to be less than we are. She turned to face him. Humanity isn't just rejoining galactic civilization. We're remembering our role as its guardians. The ancient facility, no longer just a relic, but a bridge between humanity's past and future, pulsed with quiet power. The masquerade was over. The hidden watchers could finally step into the light. And somewhere in the void between spaces, ancient enemies began to consider the possibility of becoming something else entirely, perhaps even friends. The galaxy would never be the same, but then, that had been the plan all along.